Hello there. Well, two issues to look at today about TV licensing. You'll no doubt have seen and heard that the government is still prattling on about trying to find a way to force the entire nation to pay for a TV licence even if they don't need one. And you might also have seen that TV licensing has been resurrecting the TV detector vans myth. So stay tuned, because first we're going to look at those government proposals, and secondly we're going to unpick TVL's detector van faux pas, because that one could actually see them get prosecuted. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello there, and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now, God forbid that the British Bias Corporation should be expected to stand on its own 2 feet. If the government manages to push through some sort of legislation that forces licences on everyone, I can see a TV licence rebellion starting, the likes of which we've never seen before. Now, the BBC is still clinging to this forlorn hope that they might get some viewers for their awful programmes. Now, okay, I realise that the appeal of individual TV programmes is very much subjective, and there are those who love BBC content and who are happy to pay for it, and there are those who would rather stick pins in their eyes than watch any BBC content at all. I think the bulk of TV programming on the BBC isn't worth watching, though I've certainly missed some of the content over the past 5 or 6 years that I've been licence free. I mean, Line of Duty, The Repair Shop, yeah, I'm sorry folks, some sporting events, Would I Lie to You, and I now have to be content with watching clips on YouTube. But of course, rumour has it the BBC is trying to get its claws into that as well. So I cancelled my TV licence when Sad IQ Khan gave the BBC £1.5 million of licence fee payers' hard-earned cash to feature a Black Lives Matter drone show as part of that particular year's New Year's fireworks in London. By then, the BLM movement had been exposed as a money-making scam by its creators. So, like many of you, I'm very happy being licence-free. The thought of being forced to pay for something I don't use and have no intention of using is incredibly annoying. So how can they make us pay for it? Well, it's been repeatedly suggested they could add it to utility bills or the council tax, but council tax would need a complete and major change of legislation, and I fear that if that were allowed, then that same piece of legislation could be used by future governments to add any old fees or charges to our council tax bills. Maybe flat fee ULEZ charges or congestion charges, even if we don't normally live in those zones. Or maybe for the reintroduction of dog licences, even if you don't own a dog. Maybe they'll bring a cat owner's licence in. Adding TV licences which are completely unrelated to district or county council expenses would certainly be the thin end of the wedge, in my opinion, and open the floodgates to lots more. Then of course there's the other option being touted around, that they could levy the licence if you watch any streaming services such as Netflix or Disney+. So where will it end? How about levying the TV licence at video call apps like WhatsApp or Zoom? Maybe bring all video calls under the TV licence umbrella. And maybe I shouldn't be giving them ideas. But you see what I mean? Where does it stop? The BBC and TV licensing are beginning to sound desperate. More desperate than a TV licensing press officer trying to keep the detector van myth alive, which is what they've just deliberately resurrected, unbelievably resurrected. They've sent hundreds of press releases to newspapers in all the far-flung corners of our sceptred isles that included stark warnings about their use of these fabled high-tech and non-existent detector vans. Well, all right, the vans existed, maybe they still do, but the technology didn't and doesn't. As renowned anti-TV licence campaigner Chili John has repeatedly said, there's never been a prosecution brought based on the evidence of a detector van. And in fact, in response to a Freedom of Information request, the BBC actually said that TV licensing has not, to date, used detection evidence in court. Well, of course not, because there isn't any. Detector vans don't work. If Capita, the big corporate owners of TV licensing, had proof that detector vans existed and worked, don't you think they would have used that information? They want to make money, and their only income is from licence sales. Can you imagine the shock that would rock around the UK if they said, this month we prosecuted 200 licence evaders based solely on the evidence of our detector vans? A few weeks of that kind of news would kill off evasion once and for all. But everybody knows that they were and are one big bluff. Now, last month, TV licensing sent out a PR blast to mainstream media and to Reach plc that owns all those live papers, Birmingham Live, Somerset Live, all of them. And they all repeated the same wording, including a fleet of vans equipped with advanced detection tools and identify TV receiving equipment at targeted addresses within minutes. Those same lies also appeared in the Daily Express, Yahoo, similar mainstream media news outlets a couple of years ago with the same wording: a fleet of vans, advanced detection tools, identifying receiving equipment within minutes. My immediate thought about this was that they were spreading misinformation, and surely that must be an offence. Well, it might be if it crossed into specific offences involving harm. So that includes outright harm, fraud, public order, malicious communications, defamation, or consumer protection. Sadly, the uncomfortable truth is that it's not illegal for TV licensing to exaggerate or mislead in a press release, and that's because they fall under PR and marketing. So unless the claim crosses into one of those specific legal harms, it isn't automatically unlawful. But, and this is the key point, I think their detector vans claims sit right on the edge of consumer protection law, because the consumer regulations make it illegal for a trader, BBC, television licensing, to give false information, create a misleading impression, omit key facts, or use aggressive or deceptive practices, if doing so causes the consumer to make a different decision, for example buying a TV licence when they don't need one, out of fear of these mythical vans, and that makes their lies material to consumer decisions. Claims about detector vans in the press releases are presented as a factual capability, and that puts them squarely in the territory of the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations Act of 2008. In my book, that makes TV licence a prime target for prosecution. But who could do that? Well, an individual consumer could, if they could show that they bought a TV licence because they were misled by the detector van claims, and that those claims were material to their decision. They'd also have to show that the claims were false or unverifiable, and that they suffered financial loss, a TV licence fee. I imagine they'd also need a ton of money as well. Now, Trading Standards is the most appropriate enforcement body, and they can prosecute TV licensing for misleading commercial practices, false claims about enforcement powers, and using scare tactics that distort consumer decisions. Detector van claims fit that perfectly. But trading standards rarely take on large public bodies unless there is a clear pattern of harm, public pressure, media attention, and a test case. But right now, none of those exist. There's certainly a lot of media attention online, but not in the press, who just print TV licenses, press releases as is. And there's not been a test case. So in reality, trading standards is a non-starter. The most realistic route would be through a large campaign group, and I'm thinking of groups such as Defund the BBC. A group could bring a judicial review against the BBC for misleading the public. They could fund a civil misrepresentation claim, pressuring trading standards to act. They could file a complaint with Ofcom and use consumer protection regulations to challenge the legality of the Detector van claims. It just needs someone to pick up the baton. I'd love to see it happen, wouldn't you? Let's face it, that could be the one thing that would make TV licensing openly admit that TV licensing bans don't work. And if they fight it and try and prove that they're telling the truth, they would have to produce proof that they work. And they can't do that. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you like the video, please give it a share and a hype and do let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, next edition of Grey Matters, we're looking at TV licence warrants, because there's a lot of confusion online about what you can do if they knock on the door and they've got a warrant with them. So we'll try and unravel the fiction and the reality. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments. The next issue of Grey Matters, we are going to be looking at TV licence warrants. There's a lot of information online and videos on YouTube, a lot of which it's not my day. We'd really like to know what you think of this. Also, in the next edition of Grey Matters, we're going to be looking at TV licence warrants. What would you do if they turned up on your door with a warrant? Do you know what to look for? How can you check that it's valid? There's a lot of inaccurate videos online about that and arguments on the doorstep with people, and quite often the householder is spouting rubbish. So let's try and clear some of the fog away from around that. Thank you very much. If you like the video, please give it a share, a hype and a big fat thumbs up, and of course subscribe. And a big shout out to our channel members and to everyone watching, of course, for your continued support. So until the next time here on Grey Matters and those pesky warrants, thanks for joining us, and it's bye for now. Oh, that was awful.